Hi, I'm Eve Menezes Cunningham, and welcome to the Feel Better Everyday podcast, helping you connect with and take better care of yourself and create a life you don't need to retreat from. Welcome to episode 5 of the Feel Better Everyday podcast. Today's guest is Yasmin Shaheen Zafar. We're talking polyvagal theory, we're talking neurodiversity, and as you listen, I encourage you to think about the parts of yourself that you might have only got to know recently and ways in which you might accept your whole self, rather than beating yourself up for being the way you are, because the way you are is absolutely perfect for you, and it's about learning to work with that. I hope you enjoy listening as much as I enjoyed talking to Yasmin. Welcome, Yasmin Shaheen Zafar. I hope I pronounced that right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Feel Better Everyday with podcast. And I'm aware we've just had a little bit, we almost had a cameo from Rainbow Magnificat, but she got shy at the last minute. Thank you for joining me. I met you through an online group for neurodivergent therapists, and we bonded over our love for all things polyvagal theory and how effective it is. You've got this beautiful deck of cards, the polyvagal team, out, and I'd love you to say a little about how long you've been doing this work and what you're working on at the moment.
Okay, so so thanks so much for inviting me, and it was awesome to meet Cat Magnificent. So polyvagal. So I first was introduced to polyvagal theory when I started my therapy journey. And this was when I was halfway through my therapy journey then, and I was training. And I went to my therapist and I was like, I don't know why, but because at the time, freeze and fight were really fight or flight were really well known states. And I said, it's really weird, that when I'm under stress, or I just freeze and I can't say things, or I don't know what to say, and my head becomes cloudy. And she was the one who then introduced me to polyvagal principles, polyvagal theory. And I just absorbed it, and then I did my own research. And at the time, my daughter was quite young, and being a mom, and I didn't know I was neurodivergent. And I always swore that I was not going to be a shouty mom, but that's what I was becoming. And I really didn't want to be like that. And then when I started using polyvagal theory and its principles, and learning more and learning about emotions and behaviors and how, they're defensive states. So I really applied it to my own life. And I was like, wow. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, I guess. My daughter, we have an amazing relationship. She actually supports me with all the exhibitions on polyvagal team exhibitions when we're out there, showing like the cards and selling resources and programs. So then I was like, how do I explain this to my clients in a really simple, engaging way?
There's so much jargon around it, even though it's so obvious once people learn to work with their own vagus nerve, with their own nervous system, but the jargon can be off-putting.
Yeah, I mean, I've got so much respect for Dr. Stephen Porges, and Deb Dana has done an amazing job translating it. But I was like, still, without my clients' eyes glazing over, how do I engage them? And also talk to them about how, our nervous system's always on this journey of today, of yesterday, of, generations before, and how that impacts us today. So I created these cards, and then I created a therapist program. Now I have a schools program. And it's like, especially if you're a neurodivergent parent, and perhaps you've got, at the time I didn't know that I had sensory processing challenges. So things like, my daughter crying or screaming would really irritate me and could send me into rage. And it's really changed my life on recognizing those sensations in your body. I've gone on to become a neurofeedback practitioner. So that is with the vagus nerve, but also brain waves.
So there'll be links for everyone in the show notes, because you do so much amazing stuff, and I'm really intrigued to know what you do for yourself. So I would love to know, first of all, if you had all the time and energy and space in the world, what would you do as a morning routine?
If I had, I would most definitely do reformer Pilates every day, because I feel that's so amazing. I'm not so much of a yoga person, but some stretches. But reformer Pilates, I go once a week at the moment. But I would buy my own reformer equipment and have my own reformer studio at home. As I have got older, I'm from the Muslim faith, but I was never really like religious. But I've started to really appreciate in Islam that you're meant to pray 5 times a day. And I may not do that, but somewhere in me, it's there to set aside some time.
Wonderful.
Just for myself and to center. So either if I'm at home, I work from home, go out in the garden, barefooted, if it's not horrendous weather, and just feel the ground.
And what about if you're in a rush, you are perhaps ill or injured, or like kind of if things are not going according to plan, what is your essential self-care?
I take my hand and I just place it on my chest or on my heart where it feels comfortable. And I will just slow down and feel where my nervous system is. Quite often this can really help me to bring myself back down. And I now do it if I'm watching television, perhaps, and or I hear something on the news, and to just really sense where's my nervous system and to bring it right down.
So soothing yourself and helping.
I think from Havening, I sort of adapted that for myself. And I think people will find something that's good for them. They might find it uncomfortable having their hand on their chest. It could be, their head or something.
But it's that taking that time to honor that something is having an impact on their nervous system, on them, and rather than stop it, you shouldn't be so sensitive, or whatever it might be, it's okay. It's like that, coming in. So what about later in the day? What about perhaps bedtime routine, or like you've mentioned, once a week Pilates reformer? What are your ideal self and uppercase S self-care?
So my ideal would be that, I take my makeup off, I tone, I wash, I tone, I moisturize, I do a few stretches, I brush my teeth, but I don't always manage that. And sometimes I'm starting over the past few years, starting to realize it's a self-care, but maybe a neurodivergent thing. I can get hyper focused onto something, a project, and next minute it's 3 in the morning, and I go to sleep without brushing my teeth. So I'm trying to like be more aware. I just feel it's okay to slip up every now and again.
And I think that is something that's so important. It's about the way we talk to ourselves about it. And knowing that certain things help us feel better and we don't always manage them.
Yeah.
And what about if you could go back in time and give yourself, younger you, some love, some advice, what you wish you'd known perhaps as a child or before you started the journey with the therapy and polyvagal theory?
Mm. I wish I'd known about emotional regulation,
Mm-hmm.
because I was never able to emotionally regulate. And therefore I was never able to actually get my I was never able to self-advocate for myself,
Yeah,
because normally I'd be crying,
yeah,
or getting angry. Uh,
yeah,
then from the crying, it was anger. And then in situations, it became about the crying or
yeah,
about the anger. So the underlying issue or challenge sort of never got solved.
yeah,
So I think emotional regulation is so important. It's for relationships, it's for
yeah,
relationship with yourself.
yeah,
And just knowing that I'm good enough.
yeah, yeah. And the thing is, what I love and also despair over is all this is so simple, but that doesn't make it easy.
No.
And it's like everyone needs to know that they're enough, they're good enough, they're not too much, they're lovable, they're worthy. And yeah, the more, like, I love what you just did with your hand, the very gentle coming in, checking in, and yeah.
Yeah.
Um, as I said, it's going to be in the show notes, but where can people find you online?
Okay, so Red Kite Therapy is my online platform, a website rather, for one-to-one therapy, and I run some 6 sessions solution focused, 8 session solution focused programs for parenting, communication, and managing ADHD.
Uh-huh.
And also on polyvagalteen.com, the resources can be found. I do have now a board which I can show you quickly.
Wonderful. Yeah.
It wasn't here last time.
No, I remember you were talking about
Yeah,
being
so
in the like prototype stages,
this is
and
the second one.
brilliant.
And Deb Donner uses the metaphor of the ladder.
Uh-huh.
And I basically wanted to illustrate how our nervous system is always on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a therapist, you can put this out and you can place models or figures of people in your life,
Yeah.
challenges, where their nervous system was or is, or perhaps yours is, and where you would like to move to.
Yeah.
Place obstacles. You can use the cards, or you can use sun tray models, or
Yeah.
anything around the house even, and really sort of moving your pieces around, really emphasizing that journey.
Absolutely. And that it's nothing's permanent. It's all temporary, it all
Yeah, it's
passes.
constant
And
flow.
yeah. Oh, thank you so much. It's been an absolute delight.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me, Evie. Yes.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, review, leave a comment, ask any questions, share. I'd love as many people as possible to have access to this, because as you can hear, even those of us who work with self-care on a daily basis have challenges ourselves, because we're all human and it changes moment by moment as to whether something is self-care or if something is potentially punitive. I really hope you especially enjoyed this episode and that you're able to connect with the less typical parts of yourself and comfort them, soothe them, help yourself regulate. Let me know how you get on in the comments, and next week I look forward to sharing my interview with Money Soul Coach, Sarupa Shah. If you're listening to this in real time, we're in the base chakra part of our chakra journey, the Love Your Whole Self 2024. If you're listening to this in the future, you'll still be able to access all of that via selfcarecoaching.net.